Hey there. So thanks so much for sharing that with me. So I agree 100%. Like, I don't want you taking extra time away from your son. This was meant to, be that part-time thing, kind of like more than 2 hours a day. And really from the start, I know we have kind of struggled with this communication piece of it. But remember, I'm trying to communicate with you, trying to give you the necessary guidance. And then sometimes I know you have said to me that you don't want to bother me or you don't want to ask a lot of questions, but you really just have to, especially when we're in this transition of everything's nutty and crazy. And I just spoke to Stacy about it yesterday, and I'm just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm all over the place. And then of course, if I'm all over the place, I know you're all over the place as well. So it's just ever changing, and there's just nothing I can do about that part of it. But like I mentioned, I think come Friday we'll be into a groove. The reason that parties were so well in that last quarter was because it was the last quarter. That's primarily the reason, but also it was because I was doing the table ahead of the Facebook party. The problem with that, which you are probably not aware of, to do what I did cost me over $900. So that can't happen anymore. So even though, I did make good money as a result, it didn't offset that expense. And, between paying you and, just my other expenses for running the business, and then that expense, we're talking like $1,200 out the door before I even get paid. So that can't happen. So as a result of that, that was the reason I went back to this and not went back to it, but went to a process where the host is getting her own invitations out. So in saying that, that's pretty much how I'm going to have to keep going unless something changes. Like, I'm not going to be getting any sales. I don't really know what's going on with the whole sales part of it. I can't explain it. But anyway, the first part of the month was hairy scary. I started off with like 16 parties. 6 people immediately ghosted me or told me they didn't want to have it or whatever the case was. So that brought me down to about 5 parties. And then I did a quick campaign and booked 8 parties. And those are the ones that kind of started in an odd format. Again, these are not typical things, but they are just things that happen in a business. Nothing is going to be on a perfect train or track, especially with the state of our businesses these days. So this is my statement, and I shared this a few times. If you only have 15 minutes and there's 10 things to do, the purpose of that calendar is so I can see in a quick look what you have done. So at the end of the day, or upon completion of those tasks, as you did the first week, you're just going to bring them down to the next week. Again, this is where the communication comes in. If you're not sure about what a task means, then ask me. But also, what's going to be important is if you only have 30 minutes, then the only thing you're going to do that day is reach outs. So on Wednesdays is going to be what I would consider a heavy day, because that's the day we need to make sure that everything is done, like all the parties are set up and so on. So all of that's nothing of that has changed. So I thought I had said that, number 1 is the reach outs. Number 2 is detailed comments in the party. As we talked about on Zoom, the liking and the hearts and things like that. I wish they did something, but they don't. So there's no reason to do those. So so basically what you need to tell me is what you have time for. So if you think you can give me an hour every afternoon, quote unquote, obviously it's not going to work out perfectly all the time. That's fine. This is not meant to keep you up in the middle of the night. It's not meant to take you away from, any of your kids' sports. It's basically saying, hey, if you have 2 hours in a day, I'll pay you for the 2 hours types of things. So don't think beyond that. Don't think you have to do everything. The purpose of having those tasks on the calendar is so I can look and I can see, okay, she's done this. This is where I need to catch up. The tricky part of it is this. And I think this is, again, where the communication is going to be super, super important. So it looks like, for the most part, you are working 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. So 8 to 5 hours a day, 8 to 5 hours a day. around the 1 to 3 time frame. Not to say you're doing that entire time, but I think you said the baby goes down around 2 o'clock. So let's just say it goes down at 2 o'clock and you only have an hour until you pick up the kids or whatever the case may be. That hour is dedicated to the number one thing, the reach outs. Then the next, bit of time is dedicated to commenting in the party. Whatever you else have time for, do that. But if you know that you're not coming back after the 1 hour or whatever you spent in the afternoon, I need you to text me and say, okay, I'm done for the day. I updated my timesheet and the calendar. So then I'll go to the calendar. It's around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, okay, great. She did the reach outs. She did the commenting in the party, but she doesn't have time to do X, Y, Z. Or you may say, I don't have time to set up the parties on Wednesday at 2, but I'm going to have time tonight at 9 o'clock. Can I set them up then? Great. Perfect time. So think about it like that. So what I would like to do is keep doing what we're doing, but after you're done in the afternoon, send me a text and, just quickly say, hey, I'm done for the day, or I'm done for this afternoon. The calendar and my timesheet are updated. You don't need to give me details because I'll know the details are there. However, if you know that you can come back later that night, you could also in that same text say, but I know I can work at 9 o'clock this evening and I will set up the rest. And so then I'll just leave those tasks on the calendar and, assuming that you'll be able to do them. But just realize the communication piece is the most important piece because you can't guess what I'm doing and I can't guess what you're doing. So to get back in a space of kind of equal and evenness, it's just going to take getting through this bumpiness over these next, really just until tomorrow. And then once we flip to tomorrow, yes, you will have to go back to those parties and do some updating, but ultimately we're done with all that, for the most part, that chaoticness. Now, I don't know. I might have to go back to sending out the invitations. I hope not, but I just don't know, because obviously there are very successful consultants who don't send out. Most consultants do not send out the invitations. I just did that because I like that control piece, but not to the tune of $900. So I have to find a happy medium. So the idea is that, I'll be handling all of the table part, and then you're going to be doing the commenting on the Facebook. So if you have any questions about all of this, just let me know. But again, do not let this impede on your time with your kids, activities, all that kind of stuff. That's not what this is meant to be. The reason those things are added is because really nothing has changed. Post my party change because that's going to make it easier for you, so you don't have to keep updating. Boards, I went in there and made some adjustments so that it should reflect what it's supposed to be when we do our normal Friday to Friday kind of party. So I think I covered all of your questions. But again, if something doesn't seem right or feels off or you're confused or frustrated, you got to let me know, because I could tell that something's going on, but I can't. I don't know if you're like wanting to quit or if you're just frustrated because everything is moving in 100 directions. Trust me, I want to quit at times and things are moving in 100 directions, so I get it. But I do like the money, so I'm just not quitting, and it is frustrating this month, but hopefully we can make a run at it. And in all likelihood, there's going to be other things that pop up this month because I've got to do something to make things work. But ultimately, your goal is just to get through what you wanted to get through. Now, when it comes to the stats, I know you didn't work that first week of January. So when you came back, it was like stats were due, this was due, that was done. But at the same time, you could have easily have said, hey, Lorraine, I know I'm only going to have time to do X. And then the stats would be on my back. So even though things might be under your name on there, and the hope is that you'll have time to do them, but it's in all likelihood, you won't have time to do them every day. So just keep that thought in mind.